Hey everybody, welcome to Press Pause, the video games discussion show. I'm Carlos Videla.
I'm Dan Shu.
I thought you were just Shu.
I'm Shu.
Oh, this is the thing. I gotta call him Shu because that's his name.
I'm getting too old for
Shu.
nicknames, but the thing is, I've been Shu for like 20 years.
Okay.
So I'm not used to it.
It's not even a nickname anymore.
Yeah,
it's just a
I'm just not used to
moniker.
it.
Isn't that it? Is it switch from nickname to moniker? Anyways, Shu, let's talk about Skyrim again.
All right.
We talked about it last week, but now we're gonna talk a little more in depth. One thing we're gonna talk about at the top of the show we didn't mention last show is leveling, and how it's different in this one than Oblivion and just in general. Do you like it? Are you a fan of it? I mean, the last one, Oblivion, the monsters leveled with you, and that was kind of weird.
Oh, you know what? I'm not sure about that actually.
Oh, did you not play enough?
I did play Oblivion, but I don't know. I didn't realize that's what.
Yeah. So
you were
basically, what was kind of annoying in the Oblivion for me and for a lot of people was monsters leveled with you. So if
I
you,
hate that.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And so when it's like a normal RPG, you want to go somewhere and level up so you feel stronger, so you know you can take on certain areas. And in Oblivion, it just totally backfired on you. So this one, it abandoned that. It went back to more Fallout kind of leveling. And so that part of it, I love. I'm a big fan of that. Every once in a while, you feel like you're underpowered. For the most part, you're badass when you're supposed to be badass. And then you're like, whoa, that guy's kind of tough. Let me go back to drawing board. So that's great. So anybody wanting to play Skyrim, don't be afraid of the leveling monsters with you. That doesn't happen. But you were talking about how it's overwhelming in general, the leveling up.
Well, yeah, so when you gain a level, first thing you need to decide is, do you want to increase your health, your magicka, which is like your mana, or your stamina? Then you go into the skill trees, and it's a massive menu.
And it's kind of fitting that it looks like a big, huge universe.
Yeah, it's like a bunch of constellations, right?
Yeah.
And then so you have to pick a category first, like one-handed combat, two-handed combat, armor, blocking, like stealth stuff, thievery, and then all the different magics, and then like all the things you can do, like alchemy, right? Like we talked about last show, which like making potions and stuff like that. I don't know how many, there are a ton of different categories, and then you open one of them up, and then within them, branches for your actual skill tree within that set. And there's so much that I'm like, I like the freedom of choice, and I get it. But everyone's going to end up with very different characters, which is very cool. But there's almost, weirdly, I want to say there are too many choices, because like, man, I'm going to spend this time, if I just want to level up my fireball attack a few rounds, I'm like, then I'm not doing that.
You're not doing any of the other
stuff. There's a whole bunch of other things.
It's almost like general stuff like defense and defensive stuff you might want to do. I agree. But I think one of the things that helps it is that when you go into these branching path areas, right, from whichever one you pick, let's say two-handed weapon, which is what I'm using. In that, there's a bunch of things you can do, but they put requirements on when you can pick that perk. So lots of times, the choices are made for you. So in two-handed weapon, I can only get like the first one until I get to a certain amount of, I'm up to 40 or whatever in it. And then, so that kind of stops that. And it goes, okay, well, I can't do this anymore for a while. I can't upgrade two-handed weapon, so I'm gonna go over to my shield. So that kind of helps that thing, because it does feel daunting. But it goes back to what we said last show, where you want to specialize. When it comes to like, hey, I'm going to be a really good cook, or I'm going to be a really good, blacksmithy or whatever. This one I'm going to really have to pick. And I picked, personally, two-handed weapon, shield, or block, a lot of attribute stuff like that, like melee, physical stuff. It's working really well.
I'm doing one-handed weapon and destruction spells.
Oh, okay.
Even in Magic, there are a bunch of different categories before you go into the branches, right? So you have conjuring, you have destruction, you have healing magics. But so it does a little bit of that Oblivion thing where besides your total character level, like level 6, 7, 8, 9 with experience points, in each skill, you're also leveling those up too. So the more you use, like if I'm always using my one-handed sword, that eventually will have its own level, right? So my one-handed sword goes up.
Right, and that's what is used actually in that thing I was talking about, in those caps.
Yeah, you need so many levels.
That sounds very confusing probably to anybody listening.
It is a little confusing, I think, at first, like if you're not used to something like that, because it's much more ambitious than most RPGs. But the thing is, what I think they took out, but I'm not sure, I didn't get a chance to check this, is in Oblivion, people would like just run and jump around and act silly and like hurt themselves and heal themselves just to rank up those skills. Right?
Oh yeah, right.
Because it's a cheap, easy way. It's like as long as you're doing it.
Think they fixed it?
Because I was like, I thought I tested out, but I didn't do it enough. Where I'm just gonna cast fire all the time on nothing, just to see if I could level
or
it
sneak.
up.
You can use it with sneak.
Yeah, and I'm not sure it does that as much. So, which if that is true, if that's right, that's great because then now you can just play the game and
right.
do
I think they narrowed
crap.
down the how that goes. Right. So if you're just using it for nothing, how they know though? Now it was so with sneaking, they would never know. Like if I'm using it passively or I'm actually using it.
Well, it knows if someone's not detecting you, right? There's a
right.
little icon in the middle screen that tells you.
Sophisticated.
Yeah, if it's like no one's even looking at you or could look at you, so you're just
wasting time.
You're just being an idiot right now. But maybe I don't know. Would have to try it out some more. But I suspect that's what they've done.
Yeah, I know because I feel like it made sense every time I see it come up on the screen. So I'm using my two-handed weapon a lot, bashing people's heads in, and it keeps coming up. So or the block. I've been using the block. The block, I'm telling you, from last show, it really is cool. It really works. It actually can do back damage. Like you can actually do things from blocking.
It does make the combat feel a little bit more visceral.
Yeah. Again, I'm telling you, third person. If you do melee combat, do third person. If you're doing magic, it's kind of cool to see yourself like going like, wow, I'm shooting it. But if you're doing melee, go third person. It's really cool. Let's talk about real quick some bugs and then also some stories about what we did in the game. Like someone mentioned in the chat room last show, was it this show? Or, I can't remember. They asked us if we do the main quest first. A lot of us don't, right? Neither we do. And so a lot of the side missions we did had a lot of interesting stories we can talk about. But first, the bugs. One of the bugs from Dead Island is in this. It's not a bug. One of it's kind of just weirdness. Is you can walk on water. There's no real. I mean, the water actually carries you in a current sometimes. If you get in some kind of big
Are you sure
rapids.
You're just not in a shallow?
No, I've been in pretty deep water. There is a actual thing that I'll talk about, a bug with actually being submerged in water because you can get into a swimming motion. But for the most part, most of the water that should be pretty deep, you're pretty much walking on. Because you can actually run. Because they have a run button. So I was in the kind of a pools area or something, and I wanted to get across, and I was like, I got to go on this land piece somewhere. I was like, let me try to walk through. And then, of course, I just ran through the water. So that's kind of weird. Also...
Maybe your feet, like if you were in third person,
it was like... I should look at it in third person. So there was another part where I was in some cave somewhere and I found a well. Have you seen anything where you can actually do the swimming motion?
Just in a river.
A river.
I swam in the river.
So you did swim in it, okay. Well, I found somewhere like a kind of a small enclosed like well kind of thing. And I was swimming down it, and there was actually like a lever down there or something. And I was kind of like, this is kind of fun. The swimming was kind of difficult though. But at some point I finished swimming and I wanted to get back up on the piece of land that I was near. And I came back out of the water in third person. And I was swimming still for a long time, just flying around the ground, and I thought it was pretty funny. Yeah,
all these games, they're bound to have bugs. I haven't found anything really like blatant like that, but probably the only thing is just pathfinding for the AI.
Oh yeah.
There's sometimes they'll get stuck and they don't know how to do it.
You're talking about the people who follow you and you get the companions,
or it could be enemies too.
Yeah.
So like in the game. What's kind of amazing is like we talked about this last show, like you could go anywhere, right? Mountains, but some of it's going to take some creativity on your part. Like maybe the game doesn't even intend that you're going to walk that way.
You're going to scale a mountain like you do.
Yeah, you're going to scale a mountain, and so you're going to like find the right spot, jump up on this rock, and you're getting to places probably the designers maybe didn't think you were going to go or didn't want you to go.
Yeah.
But the AI is not good about traversing those areas. So there's one time. So this is kind of like another thing we're going to talk about, like just different things that happen to us in the game. They're giants that wander the countryside, right?
They're badass, by the way.
You see them from so far away, and then they're like, the first time I saw him, I'm like, that guy looks really big, and I thought it was just a graphical problem. I'm like, he looks kind of goofy, and then when I got up close, I'm like, oh, he's a giant.
Yeah.
And the first time, me and these two other random people, we killed that giant, and I'm like, oh, they're not so tough. The next time I encountered two giants, I'm like, I'm gonna go fight them. I want to rank up my guy. First club hit, boom! It was like hitting a baseball, right? I switched one kill, one hit kill.
And it's a follow animation, that kind of dead physics guy.
Yeah. So it panned out to third person, and I was like just watching from the sky. I just kept going and going, and
awesome.
my body was just like ragdolling like up in space. I was like, it looked like it just hit some massive ball out of the park.
Yeah.
And then. It was really funny. So then I'm like, okay, don't fight giants on my own.
Good idea, by the way.
So then the next time I encountered two giants, I was just like running away the whole time, like shooting fire at them, shooting arrows, but just like trying to stay like out of melee distance with them. And then I tricked them, going back to the bugs thing, is I found this kind of cliff-like area kind of jumped off the edge where there's like a little bit of a steep drop, and they didn't know where I was anymore. They couldn't follow me.
Yeah, there were some guys in the mountains somewhere that were big monsters or something. I don't know if they were giants, but they were something similar. And yeah, they were like coming after me, and I was like, oh, I'll just go around. I'll jump to these different pieces of rock formations, and they're like, oh, I don't know where you went.
Yeah,
I'm like right there. Yeah, something very similar is that at some point, this is not a spoiler, whatever. People join you probably can join your party, and there's this is actually one of my stories I want to talk about. Someone gives me a girl to help me out. Like, hey, take this girl and she will help you fight battles. I have 2 stories here with her. First one is, like you said, pathfinding. She comes out with me, and we're going around, and I'm deciding that like I don't really want her around. I'm gonna see, can I lose her? Maybe I'm gonna try to lose her. And so I go to this mountain somewhere, and I did the same thing you were talking about. Like, we get to the top of the mountain, I actually traverse down it sideways. Like you can kind of jump and not get killed. And she's just standing at the top, like, where are you going, dude? So I leave, and I'm going for a long time, and she's gone. I'm like, whew, I got rid of her, And all of a sudden she pops up. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can't be coming from that side.
They catch up with you eventually.
They catch up.
Somehow.
So I haven't been able to lose her. And the reason why, moral of the story, why I want to lose her, is because in the game, you can get a house. I'm just going to say it. That's not that big of a spoiler. You're like, don't say anything. There's ability to get a house, which I think is super cool, and it reminds me of Ultima 7, which I won't talk about because I know I talk about Ultima too much, but where you can get little houses and put your own things in them. Love that. So I had this house, and then they got appointed this girl, which, by the way, was called a house Carl, which I don't know what that's all about. And she is, okay, cool. It's just stay there. Don't follow me. So at some point I need her for a mission. I'm like, all right, come with me for a while.
So you kept this girl as like a slave in your house?
They gave her to me. I didn't even want her. So at some point I said, stay here. Like, just don't follow me. Just, whatever. So I get the house. I buy the house. I'm all excited. Put all my stuff in it, I go adventuring. I come home that night. I'm like, I'm just going to chill out my house, read some books. Because, by the way, the books are pretty cool in the game.
You read them?
Yeah, I read some of them.
There's too many to read.
There's too many, I know. But let's just, for the sake of the story, I come home, candlelight, I'm going to open up a book.
Cook some dinner.
Cook some dinner.
With the cooking.
Eat some apple pie. Put on my jewelry that Dan made. And I'm sitting there just chilling out. Like, well, I'm not sitting there, but I'm about to go by my bed. And I turn around and I'm startled because the girl's in my house. She's in the house and she's got her own little room, there's like a towel down or something. I'm like, what the hell are you doing in my house? I bought this house because I like the idea of having my own shit, my own stuff. And she's there.
That's awesome.
No, it isn't. So now my
just give
whole
her a little
existence,
towel on the floor. This is your
towel.
bed.
I didn't even put the towel down. She found it from some closet. So now my whole goal for Skyrim is to get rid of her.
You can tell her.
I probably can tell her just to scram, I think.
Yeah, I think
maybe
you
one
can
of
tell
those
her to
options
get out of here. Yeah.
I'm gonna as soon as I get back home.
So I have a funny story that's actually Fallout 3 related, but to answer someone, someone in the chat room asked about whether we went after the main quest right away or not.
Right.
So whenever I play a game like this, where it's this open-ended, I always, and this even applies to like GTA, I end up doing all the side quests all the time. Like, I feel like the game's giving me a massive to-do list, right? It's like, do this, do this, do this, and I want to knock off the side ones because they're one and done, right? Because the main missions, when you finish one, you're going to go on to the next one. But if I feel like the small side quest, once it's done, I don't have to worry about it anymore. Now, in Skyrim, I feel like it's worse than in past games because even when you're talking to, let's say you're an AI character, I'm getting a mission from you, I'm in a conversation. If some other guy walks by, he'll start talking to me. Like, the game doesn't recognize that I'm in a conversation.
Oh, right. And you miss conversations.
Yeah, and I've had one point like where 3 different AI characters are talking to me at the same time, and they're all their dialogues overlapping.
Yeah.
I'm like, shut up! I can't understand any of you guys.
Stop talking.
But you rack up missions really quickly. Like, everyone you talk to, like side missions, main missions, quests, and can you do this for me? Can you help me out here?
Then you have a checklist.
Yeah, and all of a sudden your checklist is like 12, 15 missions deep, and I'm like, oh my god. So in Fallout 3, I hoard stuff, right? I'm like, I want to get these things, and I'm like, I didn't know where to put it all when it got too heavy. So I found a random supermarket, found a refrigerator, and I stored everything in there.
Yeah, I totally did that.
Yeah, I'm just going to store it all here until I just use this as my base of operations. As time, my friend at BitMob, Damien, this, and he played the game. He's like, why don't you just store it in your apartment? I'm like, what apartment? He's like, dude, that's like the second mission of the game. The second main mission of the game, you'll get an apartment in Fallout 3. He goes, I'm like, oh, that's how, like, I played for hours without going through the thing. And so, anyway, back to Skyrim.
So you learned your lesson.
Skyrim, I'm a little bit better about staying on the main mission, but I'm still like constantly distracted. I want to do the side missions.
I'll tell you why. That's a good lesson to learn. I guess I remember I got the apartment, but I still did things where I stored things in.
I can't afford the apartment yet.
Oh, okay.
I've been spending it. I've been getting.
But yeah, I mean, there's enough little places that you can store stuff in, so that you didn't do an incredibly bad thing. But it is important because of those. Like in Skyrim, there's these dragon shouts. There's these big things you learn. You know, one of the main early missions is learning about these things that you are, you know, this Dragonborn. And so I'm doing these main missions right now, and I went to do something like you, like a couple of side quests, and I realized, man, that was pretty powerful, the thing I just learned in the main quest. Probably could use that when you do these side quests.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you'll have these new powers. So in Skyrim, be careful. I would stay close to the main path and then go out to the side. Real quick, the audio thing, audio glitches. I have like 3 or 4 minutes left probably, but the audio glitches, the music does the same thing in Skyrim. So all of a sudden if a monster comes up and like a bear or something is in the distance, it decides that it's time for dramatic music.
Right.
And you're like, oh crap, there's a bear. But then some guy comes up and he's like, hey, what's going on, dude? And you're like, no, shut up, there's a bear going on. He's like, anyway, so like I was saying, and he keeps talking, and then the music's playing, and you can't even hear him. Or it's like, you know, it's like hard to hear him.
It's hard, like sometimes I'm like, do I need to get out of this conversation? Because there's a monster nearby.
I know. Hey, what's funny is they wait. I think they wait. Because this bear was like literally good in the distance going like this. Dramatic music, come on, we're doing something. And I'm like, hold on 1 second, dude. I'm talking to this guy. Yeah. And I finished the conversation with him. Oh, that was the guy who wanted to die. Did anybody meet him? There's a guy who wants to kill himself.
No, I haven't seen him.
Anyways, one more thing real quick. Little castles. So basically a lot of the missions that aren't actual side missions, it seems like if you just walk around a lot, you see keeps and castles. My question is every time everybody's mad at you? Why is everybody in every keep mad at you?
Do you have your weapons drawn already?
Maybe.
Usually? Because they don't like that.
So you're saying that some of the keeps that I want up to, they probably would have talked to me?
Well, so there's a couple of things that will determine people's reactions to you, right? If you have your weapons drawn, it immediately puts a lot of non-player characters on edge, and they don't like you.
Makes sense.
The other thing is also, but what's cool about that part is you don't know if people are friendly or not. Sometimes
I know.
In a while,
So
right?
you're like, just
so like, do I have my weapons drawn and
Yeah.
get ready for a fight or not? So that's kind of cool because it's
Yeah.
kind of realistic, right? Like you don't know someone in a while is going to be friendly or an enemy.
Yeah.
The other thing too is it depends on where you've progressed in a story because you will gain respect. Like when people recognize you as, I don't want to spoil anything, like, but when you hit certain points and people like, oh, you're kind of like a hero.
Yeah, you're that dude.
Yeah, then they'll treat you differently.
But I wonder, I feel like some of the guys in some of those keeps are just mad. Like,
there are a lot
ideas.
of jerks, especially the women in this town.
There are a lot of jerks.
There are a lot of
That's
bitches.
a great way to say it.
Yeah, they're just coming at you like,
I think you've changed the subject all of a sudden, but I'll let you go with it.
I played as a girl character because I'm playing with my girlfriend and I thought she might like this game and I'm like, you make whatever character you want.
And then interesting tactic.
She picked a female, I think we're a high elf or dark elf or something like that. And I regret it because I'm playing first person. I'm always forgetting I'm playing a girl. And then like someone will say to me, hey, milady. I'm like, I'm a girl. I forgot I'm a girl. I'm like, you know, it's kind of weird now.
Well, now we were talking about restarting it, you know?
I don't know if I spent too much time.
Let me give you one more example. We're going over time. It's just going to happen. It's Skyrim. One more example of I want to tell 2 more stories. One, what's going to help you maybe restart. Okay, it's a bug that I can see you're not one who wants to exploit bugs, but let me tell you anyhow. So in the very beginning of the game, and this is not a spoiler because it's the beginning of the game. I'm tired of saying it. We'll put a spoiler cam on the whole rest of this. In the beginning of the game, there's a guy who's like, hey, come here. Like, I'll show you what the land is made up of. He's kind of giving you kind of a tour of like what is, Skyrim. As he's walking around, he's telling you stuff. And I realized that, okay, I'm going to try in the beginning of this game to play bad immediately and just kill this guy. Because the guy that's giving you this tour is a soldier. And in the very beginning of the game, the cutscene, the soldiers are kind of dicks and they want to kill you, So I'm like, screw off, I'm going to kill you right now. So I attack him and this shows a little bit of blood and stuff, but nothing's happening. You know how that happens? Well, I'm like, oh, that sucks, right? Because he's got to tell me some things before
he can't kill. I tried the same thing,
right.
Actually.
Well, here's what happens. I kept trying the same thing. Kept trying it. I leveled up. Oh, loophole Skyrim. I leveled up by kicking his ass when he didn't care.
He didn't care. He didn't recognize you were attacking him.
No. So, do you restart the game and just level to 20 or something? Like, you might be able to level up with this guy. And it seems like you leveled up quick.
I gotta do all those missions again. Some of those dungeons are long.
They are.
They take a long time.
Oh, you just reminded me of that. That's right. Okay, another quick story. There was a dragon. Some guys were fighting a dragon by themselves. I thought that was cool. Like, I wasn't even involved. They were like, hey, dude, come help us fight this dragon. They're like, crap, a dragon. Let's fight him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as they're fighting him, they killed him. I kind of stood in distance like this, like, what's going to happen? They killed him. And if you, again, another mini spoiler. This whole thing's just spoilers. Is that you're Dragonborn, you know that, and you can collect essence of dragons, right? So I'm like, what happens if I just hang out and that dragon dies, and then I just go walk near him? And I did, and I got his essence.
Yeah, because the computer guys never loot the bodies.
Right.
Of anything. So if they're into a fight and they kill each other, it's all yours.
It's all,
one guy
including
wins.
essence.
Yeah, if one guy wins, and then he'll walk away, and then you could gather all the loot.
I just stood there and I got all the essence. By the way, that's not the end of the story. I got all the essence, and I'm like, yeah, bitches. And all of a sudden they were like, casters, and they're like, you over there, and they got pissed at me.
Oh, for looting the dragon?
Yeah, I don't know. They were so mad at me.
Oh.
Maybe it's like everyone's mad at me. I don't know what's going on, but
they're mean people
they're
in this
mean
world.
people in this game, and so they attacked me, and I had to like escape them because I basically stole the essence real quick. I was like, "You guys killed the dragon. I'll just take it."
Yeah, I've wanted to kill a lot of like NPCs in this game just for giving me
douchebags.
Yeah.
Let's say Skyrim subtitle, a lot of douchebags. All right, that's gonna do it. We probably have a lot more stories, but we could go on forever.
Yeah.
You should play the game yourself and tell us your stories at Press Pause Show. See that segue? Twitter. Also, Bitmob Shoe. And I'm Onawa. And Scott Jones is Yoshiwara, who's making all those little switching noises over there. That's going to do it for the show. Game over.